All right. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing well. It's JP Costa, coming to you live from Cape Town. Yeah, what an amazing evening it is in Cape Town this evening. We've had the most amazing weather after it almost being seeming like it's been winter since almost mid-November. But yeah, so this evening we've got an amazing talk by Carla Simons, who is really a wellness expert, if I can call it that. She's had amazing results on the product. I've no doubt, in fact, that she's probably the person on this call this evening that's been using the Manatech products for the longest. And she's got an amazing story. And I'm actually very, very grateful to have her on the call this evening. And she's obviously based in Dallas, Texas. She's originally South African, but they've been living there for quite some time. So I just want to try and see if we can get her video live. So I'm just going to ask Carla to just make her a co-host. So hopefully this should work. I am recording the call. So we will be putting this onto the different groups, Facebook groups that you can obviously use as a reference at a later stage. Just a little bit about myself. I've obviously been part of Manatech now for more than 12 years. I've seen the most amazing results with people that have used these products. And Carla is going to clarify a lot of those different things that people want to know, for instance, regarding product, regarding supplementation, why it's so important, and especially in the 21st century, why people should be supplementing. So Carla, if you can maybe just start your video, then we should be able to get you live. Okay, there we go. Okay, perfect, awesome, great. I love your. It seems that you decorated your. I'm not sure where you're calling from exactly, in which part of your house. It looks beautiful. So great to have you on the call. Can I just want to check your sound? Is your sound okay?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. No, we can hear you loud and clear. We've got just about 170, 200 people on the call this evening, all listening in from mostly South Africa, but I have no doubt there's people from the UK, from the Netherlands, and from quite a few other markets as well. So I think maybe just to start off this evening, I mean, maybe if you could just share a little bit about your story and maybe just how you came across the Manatech products, because I was obviously sharing with everyone a little bit earlier that I've no doubt that you've used Manatech and Ambritos and Manopol longer than anyone on the call this evening. So maybe if you can just maybe share a little bit with us, just your story and how you came across the Manatech product.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, JP. And it's always lovely to be able to share with other people and hopefully inspire them and, get them to know that why they need supplements, but also two, for those that are maybe not in optimal health and have health challenges, to know that there is hope and there's alternatives to conventional medicine. And that although sometimes you may need conventional medicine, supplements and supplementation go a long way to support you in your body systems. So for a lot of you that do know me and know my story, there are people on this call that probably don't know my story, so I'll share that. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition approximately 30 years ago, and at the time, very little was known about the condition. And the doctors would basically say that anyone with this type of condition would live on average 5 to 10 years. With that in mind, you kind of get given this sentence to say that you'll only be around for 5 to 10 years. It's quite daunting. I had a small child at the time, and the idea of not being around is one that none of us want to face. So I decided that, I had a lot of challenges, mainly mobility. I couldn't, among other things, but I used a walker and a wheelchair for a lot of the time, and faced many health challenges, and my body was breaking down further and further. And there were really very little treatments that you could do, conventional treatments. And so I obviously started looking at alternative routes. My husband traveled at the time, and he used to go all over the world, and he would often come home and say, oh, I've got this product and it's from this country and it's going to work and you're going to get better. And he did this a lot of the time, and I tried many products with little, so I might see some result, but really with no major changes, until I got to a point where I had you obviously through lifestyle and making some changes, had managed to actually manage my condition to a degree. But mobility was a major problem, as mentioned before, to the point where I, in fact, used a paraplegic car on certain, during certain periods. But Chris, my husband, came home one day and he brought Manatech products. And he said to me, you need to try these products, they're going to work. And at the time, I was very, very ill. I had lost a lot of weight. I couldn't eat. I had severe joint issues. So I had no mobility. I couldn't, on certain days, feed myself or dress myself. Couldn't go to the bathroom without assistance. And I started taking the Manatech products. I had alopecia and had been told by the doctors that I wasn't going to regrow any of my hair. And I was just really in a bad way. So I started taking the products, and I must be honest, there wasn't immediate results. So I was about 3 or 4 months into the products, and I remember saying to him, I don't know why I'm taking these products, because they're really not making a difference. And he said to me, this is really important. You need to stay on the products because they take time to get into your system. And you need to think about the amount of years that you've been sick. And for every year that you've actually been sick, you need to allow for at least a month on the product. So I had been sick for a good number of years, and I continued taking the products. And we were about 11 months into me actually taking the products. And at that stage, I think I was only really taking Ambrotose and Manopol. And so I continued on the Ambrotose and the Manopol, and it was 11 months into the product when he actually helped me to the restroom. And I remember leaning on the counter and looking up in the mirror, and I noticed my hair had grown. And for me, that was the first outward sign of something really amazing happening internally. And I'm sure there must have been benefits along the way that I wasn't even aware of, because I had just been always riddled with pain and this mobility issue being a major problem. So in the 13th month, I remember, I was motivated by seeing the hair growth, and so continued to take the products. And in the 13th month, I remember waking up and realizing for the first time in years that I actually had no pain. And it was as if a light switch had been switched, and all of a sudden the pain was gone. And that was a major, major thing for me. That was life-changing, because I finally, over time, didn't need to use walking aids anymore, wheelchairs anymore. And just it felt like I had my life back. And that's just one aspect where the product has made a massive difference for me. And then what I've found is, when you have one autoimmune condition, you actually, it builds on that one, because your body's breaking down. And so you end up with multiple autoimmune conditions. And so I, in fact, have got 5 autoimmune conditions. I have had this condition for 30 years now. But it just goes to show that when a doctor maybe gives you a diagnosis and says you have 5 years or 10 years, and because that's the prognosis of the condition, that there is ways and things that you can do in terms of supplementation and healthy lifestyle to change that. Now, when I see the doctors that I do see, I have a whole panel, because I have multiple body systems involved. So I see a cardiologist, a rheumatologist, a pulmonologist, I've got all of them. And I think what happens now when I see them, often I'll be told by them, well, we've looked at your blood work, we've looked at your tests and your examinations and your x-rays and your scans. And in all honesty, for the amount of years you've had this condition or these conditions, and for what you've been through, I've, had blood clots and heart failure and organ failure and multiple organ failure. And, even going through all of that, they'll still say that my health and my body is actually in an amazing condition. And to me, that is definitely a direct testimony to the product, how effective it is, how well it works in the body, and how it's supporting all of my organ systems and my health. It's not to say that I don't have challenges, because I do, but I'm definitely getting the support I need from the products that I use. And to me, that is incredible. So that's just really my story.
Awesome, Carla. Yeah, I mean, I think literally you are a walking miracle. I mean,
By God's grace.
Yeah, absolutely. I've obviously known you for many, many years. So tell me a little bit of, one of the other questions that very often that, comes up, especially with associates and even with customers, is that very often people say, number one, should I be supplementing? I mean, don't we get everything we need in the modern day diet? Is like the one concept. And the other part about it is people say like, well, if I'm going to supplement, why should I be supplementing with Magnetic products? I mean, what makes Magnetic so different and unique? So maybe if you could shed some light on that.
Okay, so, I would say that probably 100 years ago, we would never have needed to use supplements. We would have been able to survive just on eating healthy and living healthy lives. But unfortunately, in the last 100 years, we have had approximately 88,000 chemicals introduced into our everyday lives through industry, through food, through water, air pollution. And of those 88,000, what might be very surprising is that only 2,000 have in fact been tested in terms of safety. So that leaves us with 86,000 untested chemicals that we're exposed to every day. We have approximately 6.5 billion chemicals in the air that we're breathing on a daily basis. And unfortunately, that is direct toxins that we're exposed to. The average woman uses about 12 personal care products daily, and those are not natural. That's if you don't use natural products. If you're using chemical products, standard products sold in the supermarket, you're using about 12 products a day on your body. That would equate to about 165 chemicals that you are placing directly on your body every single day. And then for men use less personal care products, but they still use personal care products. So they get about 85 chemicals directly placed on the skin. And then anything that goes on the skin goes 7 layers deep into the bloodstream, and we're exposed to that chemical. So people may have this idea that what goes on the skin doesn't go into the body, but unfortunately it does. Just as it goes through our mucous membranes, we breathe in the air, and that goes directly into our lungs and then into our bloodstream, and so does whatever body care we use on our body. So it's really important to focus on using natural alternatives when you look at body care. The other thing that they've really tested and discovered is that they tested babies. They wanted to see how many chemicals end up in an unborn child before birth, and they tested the umbilical cords. And in those umbilical cords, they found that there are an average of 200 chemicals in the umbilical cord that the baby is exposed to before it's even born. And that's why you're having, abnormal births, or you're having babies born with cancers or diseases. Then they looked at teenagers, and they found that when they look at testing teens, they actually found that there are about 16 hormone altering chemicals in the bloodstream of a teenager at their young ages. Teenagers are also using a lot more personal care products. So because we have this massive, massive, massive chemical burden on our body, we have to get rid of these chemicals. And in the past, we didn't need supplements, and therefore we didn't need to worry about getting rid of all of these chemicals. The body is detoxifying every day. The body is trying to get rid of toxins on a daily basis. But the body can only do that if it has sufficient vitamins and minerals to support the body systems, to heal the damage that these toxins are causing, to keep the immune system balanced, the hormonal system balanced, and to be able to move these toxins out of the system. If we don't have supplementation, and if we don't give our bodies extra supplementation, then we can't get rid of toxins, and that's how the body breaks down. Now, if you look at food, I mean, just let's not even talk about the food supply being toxic and being, laden with chemical additives and that sort of thing. But if we just look at food today, doesn't actually come from local suppliers and growers. A lot of food is traveling distances. It's being imported or exported. And for that food to travel long distances, you've got to understand that if it gets picked, packed, shipped, and arrives in your supermarket, there's been such a massive time delay in the food are no longer, what they would be if they had been picked this morning and you were eating them. So this is why the very, very important need for supplementation. So if we get on to, a lot of people would say, as JP said, why Manatech supplements? There's so many other supplements. Aren't they all the same? So they're not all equal. No supplement is equal. If you look at supplements that are produced predominantly by a pharmaceutical company or from the pharmaceutical industry, those supplements are going to basically be test tube derived. And what I mean by that is they would have looked at the molecule of vitamin A in nature, and then they would have reproduced that in a chemical form in the test tube in the laboratory, and then put formulations together. But most of those synthetic supplements, because it's not real food technology, they are actually damaging to the body. Again, we've got another chemical. It's not natural, didn't come out of nature. It's not in a plant form. And so because we have a chemical supplement and we're putting that in our body's going, well, what is this? And what do I do with it? Do I detoxify this, or do I take this up? And then those supplements cause damage over time. Then the second thing is you would sometimes see a supplement on the shelf and it would go 1 a day multi. And you'd be thinking, well, why must I take 4 Catalyst or 4 Phytomatrix when I can take 1 a day multi and be done? And let's face it, taking lots of supplements is not easy. We don't all love taking pills. And if you're like me and you've been taking them for so many years, you wish you could do 1 a day multi. But unfortunately, that is not the case. Water-soluble vitamins move into the body and they're either used up or dispelled within 4 hours. And so therefore, we need to keep replenishing those vitamins and minerals throughout the day, throughout the week, and ongoing, because what we are putting into our system is working to detoxify, to support organs, and to support body systems all the time. And that's why 1 a day doesn't work. So a nice idea, wonderful concept, but really not effective. And then some of you might say, well, I've seen plant-based supplements in the supermarket, and some of them say they're 100% plant-based, so they're much cheaper. Why would I use Manatech and not these plant-based supplements that are available? So if you really unpack that in a lot more detail, you have to look at the formulations of those products. Some products are formulated differently to others, and formulations do matter, because those are the things that are going to make that product absorbable or non-absorbable. So the formulations and the quantities that they have been, in the quantities that have been put into those formulations, and what exactly the formulation. So some formulations are much cheaper, and so you can put a whole plant-based product together using a cheaper formulation, but that doesn't mean that that's bioavailable and your body's going to absorb the maximum amount of that specific formulation. So an example too would be, zinc, for example. You would use one type of zinc sulfate maybe would be most beneficial for skin issues, and then you would have zinc gluconate, which would be beneficial for immune health. And so it's very important to understand that, you might walk into the shop and there'd be 10 different magnesiums. Which one do you choose? So Manatech have very, very carefully pulled together the right supplements in the right forms, in the right quantities that work synergistically. So they work together to ensure that you absorb what you need to get out of the supplement for it to actually work and be effective in the body. For example, if you took iron because you're iron deficient, you would need vitamin C to actually ensure there's absorption that takes place. And so in the same way, Manatech have created these amazing supplements that are perfectly scientifically put together to ensure you get the absorption you need and that they're effective in the body system. And that's why they back their product up with a money back guarantee, because they know their products will work and they'll work in the system. That's why they have the NSF approved mark on their product, because what's in the product and what's said is on the label is actually in the product. A lot of the whole food supplements don't have that approval, which means they've never really been checked to see if what is on the label is actually in the product. Even though they say plant-based, even though they say whole food, they don't necessarily have that stamp of approval to say what's in the product is on the label. What's on the label is in the product, should I say. So that's what sets Manatech definitely apart, the technology, the science. And so you can be rest assured that you're getting a product that truly, truly works to support the body system.
Awesome, Carla. Thank you so much for sharing light on that. I think, one of the questions a lot of people, obviously also, that have been using Manatech products is, I'm going to sort of do this in a two-part sort of question. The one thing is people would obviously like to know is, when is the best time to take your supplements? And the second thing I'd like to know is that a lot of people will take Manatech products, and some people get results instantaneously, and some people will take the product and after a month they say, I'm not really feeling a difference yet. And I mean, even like, as you alluded to earlier, I mean, it took you 11 months to really see amazing results in the product. So if you can maybe just shed light on those two. The one is, obviously, when's the best time to take the product, number one, and number two is that why do some people get results so quickly and some people just, it takes a lot longer for them to get results?
Okay. So the first thing is when to take your supplements. So that is something that, first of all, the most important thing is take the supplements, because a lot of people, they get on a supplement program and, they'll take their supplements today and then they'll forget later on. And so especially someone that's just starting out with taking supplements. So a supplement can only work if it's in your body. That's number one. And number two, it's also important to take the quantities that are on the label so that you're getting enough. Because if you're taking 2 catalysts a day, but you actually need 4 catalysts a day, you're not going to have the same result. So that's important to remember. Now, if you take supplements, I've got a system in place because I have so many, and I'm going to grab my little container. I even brought that into the room so I could show you. So I have a container that I use that I keep my supplements in. And this is basically for 2 weeks, morning and evening. And I use that. So I would encourage everyone to have some kind of container that they use where they can put their supplements in, because you're not going to open those containers every day. And you actually are not going to be consistent with taking your supplements unless you have a sort of a plan in place to ensure that you take them. And then I have a smaller bag that I use to travel with, or I keep it in my handbag, and it's just a little one. And if I open that up, in here I have these little baggies, and I can just grab one if I'm running out the door in the morning, and that's got all my supplements in. Or if I'm traveling, I just take that with, and then I've got a bigger one that keeps all of my powders in. So I want to say that, take the supplements. That's the first thing. And make sure that you're consistent and that you're taking them every day, twice a day. And then there's certain supplements you can take more of and you may need more of. So, for example, ambritose. There's no toxic amount of ambritose, and if your health is compromised or you happen to be sick or dealing with a virus at some point. You know, we all get sick, we all get the flu. And so, and those particular times you might need more of your product. And with Manatech products being plant-based, you don't need to worry about overdosing on supplements as such. There is one product, if you are pregnant, that all pregnant women should try to avoid, and that is Manasee. So Manasee is the only product that if you are pregnant, don't take it. And the reason being that there is catnip in the product, and that could have an effect on an unborn baby. And that's the only product in the Manatech range that you need to be concerned about. And so for while I'm on pregnancy, I may as well say that for a woman that are pregnant, probably planning a year in advance being on supplementation would be a good idea. And then all the other supplements would be fine while you're pregnant. But again, you know, as we know, you need more folic acid and more iron to support the health of a baby and an unborn baby and yourself. So it would be important to have those levels checked through pregnancy. But then for general supplements, I think just making sure that you are taking your, it's a good idea to take your fish oils with fats. So if you take your vitamins and minerals you know, you can do your probiotic first thing in the morning. Sometimes what I like to do is I actually like to take a GI-zyme and a probiotic last thing at night, so that any undigested food gets well digested, and then my probiotics can work to replace and replenish the good bacteria in the gut. And so then it sort of sets me up for the morning when I take my multivitamin and mineral products and my plus, which then, you know, have a great opportunity to absorb into the system. And then a little bit later, I like to take, well, actually, I start off with Bounce Back in the morning. And Bounce Back is an incredible product if you are someone that maybe has some issues with joints. Bounce Back works extremely well. And also it is a proteolytic, so it'll actually go into the arteries, and it'll actually do some work in there and clean up the arteries. So Bounce Back's amazing. So that's what I actually start with, and then I move on to having my vitamin mineral plus, and then a little bit later I would take my fish oils, which I like to do with some nuts or maybe some almond milk, but a food that contains a healthy fat, because that's also going to work synergistically with your supplements to actually absorb better, and you'll get better use out of them. And then as far as the rest of the products go, you know, depending on where you are, everybody has different needs, and so you would then have your add-ins like your cardio balance and your GI-zyme, for example. So it just depends on what your specific needs are, and you know, where you are in life in terms of what your needs are. So if you look at some people have been on the product and maybe are not getting results, and to me that comes back to a number of things. First, if somebody's been on the products for a while, like I was, you need to give it time. We're not all designed exactly the same way. For some people, it may take longer to get into your system. You may have more issues where the supplements are taking longer to work. It is cumulative, so they are building up in your system as long as you're consistent and you're taking them every day. The second thing to look at is maybe your gut health is not what it should be, and therefore the absorption of the supplements is not taking place. So then it would be a good idea to address the health of the gut, you know, taking additional probiotics, and then adding in maybe fermented foods is extremely helpful in rebuilding colonies in the gut. So taking things like kimchi or sauerkraut would be great. And then, you know, having things like kombucha or yogurts like a coconut yogurt, those are all very supportive in healing the gut. So it is important because obviously all of your digestion takes place there. You might need to add in some enzymes to help with digesting food, healing the gut, and then you might find that your supplements will absorb better once that's been taken care of, and making sure that you have a lot of water. I can't stress how important water is, and making sure that the quality of the water you're drinking alongside your supplements throughout the day is good. So I want to say, as far as water goes, definitely you don't want to be drinking tap water. And then the second water you don't want to be drinking is purified water, because unfortunately purified water has gone through a reverse osmosis process, and all of the vitamins and minerals have been removed from that water. Spring water, all the minerals are intact, and that would be the best source of water. With any reverse osmosis water, what happens is, because it is void of minerals, you drink the water and the water goes into your system and is actually looking for minerals. So it'll leach the minerals from your bones, or it will take the minerals from the supplements that you've consumed. So if you're drinking that kind of water and you're taking supplements, you're not getting the full benefit, because your water is actually removing the minerals that you've just taken in. So really, really important to make sure that you're drinking a spring water. And if you're drinking a spring water, bottled sources are not the best, because you get the phthalates in the plastic. And then again, that's another toxin that you have to worry about. But you can actually source water from, if you go online, there's a website called Free Spring, and that's a worldwide website. And what they've done is they've put Free Springs have been, people that have springs that have given access to the public have actually put their outlets on there, and you can actually go and collect water for free. And that would be the best type of water to be drinking on a daily basis. And then, as I say, just give the product some time. In certain cases, you may actually need more of something. I mean, I've been through periods of time where because of my body's needs and my body's burden, I've needed to take 9+ a day. I've needed to take 3 cardio balance a day. I've taken 9 fish oils a day. And sometimes I do that ongoing for a period of time until whatever is needing support is actually getting what it needs and it starts to heal. And then I can go back into taking a normal dosage. So it really depends on each individual and what your personal circumstances are, whether you're dealing with, concentration, or whether you're dealing with stress, hormones, or health conditions that are more specific. That would mean that you may need more and more product to support until at such time as you've healed what needs healing. Then you can go back to taking a standard dosage. But generally, it's also a case of keeping a diary of where you are and how your products are working, and seeing, oh, well, I'm not really feeling that different, making some changes, doing some readjusting, and then you will find that you will see a difference over time.
Awesome, Carla. Wow, so we almost, it sort of feels like we've only been into the call for like 15 minutes, almost been 35 minutes. So I think what we'll definitely do is maybe do like a 3-part series. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more questions that are going to come up. But just in closing, one of the questions I got through from one of the leaders was, between between Catalyst and Phytomatrix, like which product do you suggest? Because it's always a big debate. People are not sure, should I be using Phytomatrix, should I be using Catalyst? What is your sort of take on the two different products?
Okay, well, why don't I just start with Ambrotose? How's that? I know that's not the question, but I'll give you an example. So in South Africa, you have classic Ambrotose and you have advanced Ambrotose. And here in America, we have Ambrotose Life. And so, everybody is now saying, well, why don't we have Ambrotose Life? And that product must be amazing. But I want to say that not everybody will get the same benefit from every product. So, for example, Ambrotose Life has been, I don't take Ambrotose Life. I take Ambrotose Classic. And I like Ambrotose Classic because it is a much slower release into the system. And so for someone that's maybe not well, or someone that's maybe a bit compromised, or elderly, or children, I think classic is great because it's a slower release into the system. And so if you were to have life, then that would be fine. You could choose between life and advanced, but there is a product for everybody. And some people feel amazing on Phytomatrix, and other people feel amazing on Catalyst. So it just depends on you personally. I personally use both, and that might sound odd, but I like to take Catalyst in the morning because it is definitely loaded with more B vitamins. And so I like to have that extra bit of energy in the morning and go. So if you're someone that actually needs that energy in the morning and in the afternoon, maybe you want to just take Catalyst and stick with that. I think it's a very personal thing as to which one actually works for you. So I like Catalyst in the morning because I get that extra B vitamins. But if I take Catalyst in the afternoon, then I have so much energy I can't sleep. So I tend not to have Catalyst in the afternoon. So I would have Catalyst in the morning, and then I would have Phytomatrix in the afternoon. And I don't like to take my supplements too late, although they don't really interfere with sleep. Like I find I can take Phytomatrix before I close my eyes, and it's not going to affect me. But I do find that if I take Catalyst too late, I stay up much later.
Awesome, Carla. Thank you so much for all the, that's just for this evening. I think, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. I'm not sure what the time is in Dallas at the moment. I presume it's probably like around 10 o'clock or maybe 12 o'clock. What is the time there, by the way? 12:30. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for taking the mid-morning out of your schedule to chat to us. And just for some of the listeners on the call, so when Carla was referring to Ambrito's Classic, she's referring to Ambrito's Complex. In the US, it's called Classic. In South Africa, it's called Complex, but everyone knows as the Classic formula. It's the potted Ambritos with double the amount of manipul. It's a much slower release. And as many of you on the call know, that Ambritos is an immune modulator. So it actually, if people have got an underactive immune system, it actually builds it up. And if people have got an overactive immune system, it brings it back to normal. And that's what, and I think specifically in South Africa, we've seen a massive increase in people using Ambrito's Complex because of it being an immune modulator, which obviously allows the body to heal and restore itself. So, so we're going on about 40 minutes or so, 40 minutes or so. But thank you so much for being on the call this evening to everyone. We'll definitely get Carla on again. Like I mentioned earlier, I think it's sort of going to be like a three-part series. And if there's any other questions from some of the leaders, please pass it on to your upline leaders, presidentials, and they can pass it on to me to cover in the next episode we do. But thank you very much for being on the call this evening. And I want to wish you an amazing weekend. And we chat soon. And thank you very much again for you, Carla, for being on the call this evening.
Pleasure. Thanks, JP.
You're welcome. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.